Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about how to format an essay according to MLA guidelines. I will be using Microsoft Word, but regardless of what program you're using, the same terminology will apply. You may just go about it in slightly different steps. So the first thing you're probably going to want to do is get yourself a good MLA handbook or get access to a good site. I would recommend the Purdue OWL, Purdue Online Writing Labs site, and I'll put a link to that in the description here. They actually have an example of what a properly formatted essay according to MLA guidelines would look like right here. I'm going to give you a kind of once-over about how to do it from the ground up. So let's say that you've been assigned an essay where you have to write, let's say, something about Emily Dickinson. The first thing that we're going to need to do is to write a heading. So for the sake of, for the purposes of this exercise, let's use the name for our student, Arnold Friend. Now the first thing I'm going to notice is that font there, which is actually Calibri 11 point, and that's the standard default for a lot of programs, definitely Microsoft Word, but it's not what MLA wants. MLA wants us to use the Times New Roman font at a 12-point size. So now that we've got that, we can go to the next part, and I'm going to put the professor. This Arnold Friend is writing for Professor Panda's class, so the professor is sort of the co-author of the essay. That's a mistake that a lot of people make, is they think it's kind of a to and from situation here, but it's really like author and co-author. So the next thing that you're going to put here is the actual class. They are in a literature class that has this designation, depending on what school you're at, what institution you're at, you may have a different designation. Now, there's something a little tricky going on right now that a lot of people might not be noticing, but some of you might, which is that when I'm hitting enter, it's automatically skipping a space. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take the next step, which is to put the date. And in this case, I'll just go with today's date, although typically you would put the date that the assignment is due. So I'm going to go ahead and put today's date, and I'm getting old, so it's easy to put like 4 years ago. I think that's today. That's right, 2022. Now, what I was saying is when you hit enter, it automatically goes and skips a space, but this is double space, or is it? See, we want it to be double space, but we don't want it to skip spaces automatically. So if I highlight this entire area, or if I hit Control A to select the entire area, I can either right-click, or I can go, if I'm under the Home tab, I can hit this button to access the paragraph information. And that's what I thought. It's actually got the line spacing at multiple, and it's adding space every time I hit the Enter button. So I don't want it to do that. I don't want it to add any extra spaces, and I want it to be actually just a normal double space. Oddly enough, when I change this, you're probably not going to see any change here, but it'll become very obvious when you have paragraphs. So there you go, it's a slight change. Now the next thing that you're going to want to do here is put a title. You should come up with a title that's a little bit more creative than just Essay 1 or something like that. You should come up with some type of creative title. I'm going to hit Control E there, and that centers my title. Notice also that I'm using what's called title case. I have capitalized all the major words in my title here. I also have just an even amount of space. It's still that same double space that I had from before. It's not putting any extra space. I'm going to go ahead and put the first line. In fact, I can see that it's still centered, right? So let's go ahead and take this back, and that should get rid of it. We can check up here and see that it's no longer centered, and in fact, it is left justified. You can see from the little picture here that it is right. The right side is jagged. You might think that you would want this to make it look clean on the left and the right, but that's actually not correct. You want it to be just solid on the solid line on the left and jagged on the right. That's called left justified. So I'm going to hit the tab button to automatically indent here. And in fact, I've got some text here that I'm going to paste in just to save us a little bit of time. I've got a short set of directions that I wrote for how to format an essay. So I'll go ahead and paste that in, and now we have something. Notice I pasted that in and everything got all weird. This little tab will come in. When you paste something, you have options. Normally it's this one here, merge formatting, that you want to select. And that's going to put everything back into the format that it was before, which was Times New Roman, 12-point font, all those things. So cool. I've got the heading, I've got a title, I've got the actual essay that's been written. That's up to you. That part I can't show you. I am missing something here, which is the page numbers. And this is something that people struggle with a lot. So here's how you do it. You do not want to simply try to write it over here and hit the tab button or space. Don't do that. It's very simple. You just hit the insert button, insert, and don't use the header. Go to insert page number right there. And for MLA, you're going to want that top of page, plain number 3. And that's going to open up a separate field. This is important terminology. It's a field here. You'll notice this area is gray and this area is solid. You can write in it. Those are 2 different fields. So when I select all in this field, it's selecting everything, but it's not selecting what's here. The point that I'm driving at here is that once you put in the student's last name, your last name, and a space, you might notice that that font is not the same. And your teacher may be a real stickler for that. So let's match them up by highlighting that, selecting 12-point Times New Roman. Great. And now I can double click to get out of that area and everything matches. Look at that. I have a wonderfully written essay already. Last name, page number, the heading, which is your name, professor's name, the course number, the date with, in this format, day, month, year, with the month spelled out. Some kind of a creative title. Now, there's an optional 5th line, by the way. You can put the assignment name there, but that's not necessary. So just so you know. And then the rest of your essay should look like this. You'll notice there's no extra spaces. It's just a normal spacing. It's double spaced throughout. If you were to do this incorrectly, I'm going to show you what that would look like. It adds that little bit of extra space that makes it obvious you're starting a new paragraph. And you actually don't want to do that because you've already indented here. So you don't need that extra space. It's redundant. It's a double indentation. You don't need to do it twice. All right, so the next thing we need to do is figure out how to create a Works Cited page. We have written our essay where we've presumably documented all our sources, and that's a whole other topic. We can talk about it in another video. But we need to create a Works Cited page. And this is another thing that people struggle with. There's two parts that people struggle with here. The creation of the Works Cited page itself, and then how to apply this hanging indentation, this weird looking bibliographic thing that they make us do that is such a nightmare. Well, it's actually easier than it seems. So let's get to a new line here, and I'm going to hit Insert Page Break. Now, when I do that, it does something. It creates a page break. I'm going to type Works Cited. Now, the reason I did it that way, I can also hit Control-E right there to center that. The reason I did that is, let's say that I go back here and I get rid of something here. Well, that page break that I created locked this in right there where I put it. And you may have had that experience in the past where you delete something and suddenly your Works Cited title is up at the bottom of the previous page because the computer is thinking it's thinking space, not necessarily the specific command that I want to start a new page. So for whatever reason, they don't always agree on the space. And for if you want to make sure you do it correctly, absolutely correctly, then you just create a page break. Insert a page break. There you go. That's how you do it. Now, the next thing that we need to do is add some bibliographic information. I said that this would be a fictional essay about Emily Dickinson, so I've got a couple sources already prepared here. I'm going to paste them in just to show what this document should look like. Now, I kind of skipped the hard part, right? So I'm going to undo that. There we go. And this is what you probably would have entered if you were doing it by hand or by scratch or pasting it from somewhere else. You may end up without the hanging indentation. You'll notice that it's still alphabetized. And Emily Dickinson, this is obviously the primary source in this essay, and this is the secondary source, but we're not going to separate them in an essay like this. You're just going to write them all together. D comes before T, so this entry comes first. Now, we need to put these both in what's called hanging indentation. I can select them both at the same time and apply it to them, but just to make sure that we don't create any problems we don't intend to, I'm just going to do it to one first, and I can show you again on the other to double down on the lesson. So we're going to highlight this area here, and again, you can, if you're into the home section, you can hit this arrow here to go to paragraph, or you can right-click to go to paragraph, and it's under here that you're going to find hanging indentation. That's under special. This tab that says special, click on that, select hanging, okay, and there you go. That's that hanging indentation that is so hard to do, that is such a pain. And here we go again, under special, hanging, okay, there we go. I could have done them both at the same time, but I figured why not just show you twice real quick. That is the entire thing. That is everything you need to know to format a basic MLA essay. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions and you are a student in one of my classes, then you can reach out via email or contact me via the discussion boards on the course website. If you're just a random person on the internet who's looking to learn more about writing and literature in general, then drop a question in the comment field below.